Hello and welcome back to the AIDEM Interactions. And with me is Paranjoy, who has appeared in several AIDEM Interactions. So we have mostly discussed issues relating to economy, larger politics, sometimes the attack on journalists and things like that. But I think, in this current context, I would like to look at another area of your expertise, or maybe something which you have been targeted by the governments and agencies for the government: surveillance. You have been in almost all the surveillance lists that have come out so far. In 2018, when the Pegasus...
How do you know whether these lists are real or unreal?
Yeah, but you have been there. One doesn't know.
Thank you, Venkatesh.
Yeah.
And I wish all the viewers of AIDEM, media spelled backwards, all the very best.
Thank you. So the context is very interesting. You have had, just a couple of days ago, you have had this incursion into Parliament where people got over so many layers and got into the Parliament and jumped into the well and had these color canisters, thrown in the Parliament campus. On the one side, that a few days ago we had this Apple alert being going to all the opposition leaders and journalists, including Siddharth Baradar, The Wire, that their phone is getting compromised. Before that, you had this attack on NewsClick journalism. I mean, so many journalists, the laptops, and which is like this is
over 300 laptops, mobiles, and other personal electronic devices like hard disks, pen drives, are, as we speak, have been with the Delhi police from the 3rd of October.
Yeah. So, which means, which is a phenomenal case of surveillance and an incursion into the private space of people, especially into the lives of journalists. These things are instruments for their career. So, I want you to look at this situation where, we have this contrast. On the one side, you celebrated security systems getting encroached and getting breached upon by people who are seemingly ordinary people. On the other side, you have this huge surveillance machinery against journalists and politicians. So, as somebody who has been, you have put a rider on it. You said really one does not know whether the lists are correct or not. But from any layperson's observation, it would appear that you are a victim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Venkatesh, it's a very interesting question, and I'd like to draw parallels with what happened when Parliament, 4 young persons, all of them claiming that the issue against which they are protesting is unemployment, but the very fact that they were able to smuggle in these canisters containing these smoke bombs, harmless as they were, and the fact that their visitors' passes were signed by an MP belonging to the ruling party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, shows something, that you can have a surveillance Raj.
Okay.
And I believe India is currently in a surveillance Raj, and we can discuss this in greater detail later. You still cannot stop human beings and their ingenuity from infiltrating the most tight security conditions or that you put. I mean, Parliament is supposed to be high security zone. How is it that these youngsters compared to me, since I'm a senior citizen, were able to do what they did?
Right.
Let me draw a parallel. Now, a lot of the spyware, a lot of the surveillance that is taking place, including Pegasus, is spyware which is made in Israel.
Israel, yeah.
Now, if Israel is making the most dangerous and the most sophisticated spyware available anywhere across the world, including Pegasus, made by the Analyst group. How is it that on the 7th of October, the military forces of Israel could not detect the attack by Hamas?
Right.
I mean, are you trying to say this was some sort of a grand conspiracy and they went ahead?
No, so these theories were kind of, circulating.
Yeah, let these theories circulate, but the short point is the surveillance Raj has gaps, and human ingenuity is such that the most tight of all security zones can be infiltrated.
You said surveillance Raj has cabs.
No, I'm saying we are in a surveillance Raj.
Yeah.
Let me sort of just digress a little bit to explain to you. Let us talk. I mean, you have security, how security is compromised or infiltrated, and surveillance Raj. I mean, they are related and yet they're also distinct.
Right.
As you rightly pointed out, several members of parliament, leaders belonging to political parties that are opposed to the ruling regime, the Bharatiya Janata Party led government headed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, how come all of them received this message from Apple, the makers of iPhone, which is supposed to be highly secure,
Right.
and far more secure than the cellular mobile phones that have a more commonly used Android operating system? Yet, Apple has to send them a message, a warning message. These include people who are working in the office of Rahul Gandhi, a few individuals on the other side also, including a person who works for the Observer Research Foundation, that is financially supported by the Ambanis. And of course, you mentioned not just Siddharth Vardarajan, there is journalists who have reported on Gautam Adani's shenanigans, or his impression again, Ravi Nayak and Anand Magnale. They work for this international organization called the OCCRP, which is the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. Why were they all alerted by Apple? And let me read out what Apple sent all of these people. I quote, "State-sponsored attackers may be targeting your iPhone. And these attackers are likely targeting you individually because of who you are or what you do. If your device is compromised by a state-sponsored attacker, they may be able to remotely access your sensitive data, communications, or even the camera and the microphone." This is, I'm reading out an excerpt from the message. The question is, the government did a ham-handed job in trying to cover up. They said, in the past also, Apple has sent such messages to people. Why now? Why were the people who got these messages, invariably, almost all of them, were not, they were not a part of the ruling regime, but opposed to the ruling regime, and why these journalists in particular? So the point that has to be made is, the surveillance Raj is real and it exists in India. And I have reason to believe that my phone was compromised sometime in between March, April and May 2018. I learned about it much later. I learned about it 3 years later. But this was on the basis of a forensic examination done by a Toronto-based lab called Citizen Lab. And they were commissioned by an international NGO called Forbidden Stories, which is a Paris-based organization, and Amnesty International. They examined my thing not once, not twice, but 3 times. After that, my phone, the data was extracted by the West Bengal police because there was at that particular point of time a commission of inquiry headed by retired Justice of the Supreme Court, Madan Lok. Then my phone was forensically examined by those appointed by a Supreme Court committee. And I can tell you more about what happened on that occasion. And most recently, in the Newsclick case, by the Special Cell of the Delhi Police. So having my phone has all that is inside it, all the innards, are now public. My conversations with you, my conversations with my wife, my children, my sources. Remember, this has a chilling effect.
Absolutely.
Because when the people who forensically examined my phone said, what were you working on? What are the stories you were working on in that period, March 2018 to May 2018? I'd just become a consultant with Newsclick. And I said that I remember working stories. One was a series of articles that later became a book called The Real Face of Facebook in India. It looked at how this company, which is now called Meta, which includes Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp, how they had become propaganda weapons for disinformation. And the second article that I wrote, and your viewers can find it on the website of Newsclick, it's titled, it was about the late Dhirubhai Ambani's money. It's called Carving Up a Business Empire Through Tax Havens, the Ambani Way. It detailed how the money went from one tax haven to another tax haven to another tax haven, the documentation that's available. And I think the government wanted to know who was my source, who leaked this data. Because I had bank account details, I had every bit of detail, and I wrote to the Ambanis, the older Ambani, Mukesh Ambani, the younger Ambani, Anil Ambani, and said, this is the information I have. What do you have to say? They did not respond, which I presume meant that my information was
right.
So they want to know who leaked it out. Somebody in the government, somebody outside government. That was the purpose. So this surveillance business that is happening, it's aimed at having a chilling effect.
And I think if you draw a parallel, this is exactly what they wanted to do with Newsclick, the assault on Newsclick also. Create a chilling effect, because I don't think that there is any substance in the case, in the sense, there is any substantive legal point in the case.
Yet the fact is, 75-year-old Praveen Purakasthar, who founded and was the editor and is the editor-in-chief of Newsclick, the private limited company that runs Newsclick, he has been languishing in police custody and judicial custody from the 3rd of October. And I don't know how long he'll have to stay behind bars. And of course, another person by the name of Amit Chakraborty, who worked in the HR department, Human Resources Department of the company that runs Newsclick, and who's physically traveling, he too is behind bars, is in jail. So this whole idea is that what we find against you, when we find against you, whether the contents of that FIR, the first information report, are correct or not, we can use the most draconian of laws that exist in India, the UAPA, the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. And it's going to be damn tough for you. Next to impossible for you to get cheap bail.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what has happened to several other people, other journalists, other social activists, and that includes those who are involved, who are allegedly involved with anti-national elements in the Bhima Koregaon case. And one of those accused is no more.
Yeah.
Father Stan Swami.
Yeah.
So, in their case, you saw there was forensic examination, and they found that false information had been put into their laptops and their computers and used to implicate them. This is something I insist. This is something everybody should know. There is something called a hash value. And what is a hash value? It's a unique set of numbers and digits, which is akin to a digital fingerprint. And you should insist. I also insisted there. It's a separate matter that they didn't follow. The hash value is given before they examine the phone, and then after. So you can then have evidence
of
whether anything has been put inside your phone.
Yeah, but that was not given in the news. I don't think it was given.
You know what they told me? अरे आप चिंता मत करिए, don't worry, आपके सामने हम कर रहे हैं जो भी करना है. And then it said under UAPA you have to cooperate with investigators. What is cooperation with the investigators? That includes not just giving them your mobile phone and your personal electronic device, but putting the passwords and the keywords that enable them to open it. I was among the the few. There are more than 80 individuals who were interrogated across, mainly in the National Capital Territory, some outside Delhi, in Hyderabad, in Bombay, in Kerala. I was given my phone back the same day. Others had to, some of them got their SIMs or the subscriber identity module back, and they had to purchase new phones or get phones. The same is true for laptops and other hard disks and others. So you are actually depriving journalists of their livelihood.
Absolutely.
So this is the chilling effect. Look, what we find in a court of law, when we find that what we find at the court of law is another matter. The process itself is the punishment.
No, but this has been now becoming more and more organized and systematic from the government. If you look at the trajectory from the Bhima Koregaon case now to NewsClick, and of course the alerts that have come from Apple. So how does one counter this? What is the
I don't know. I think what I do is follow safe practices. I mean, people get upset with me sometimes. At least one individual, a very eminent individual, got upset with me. I said, look, my phone is under surveillance. You are with me. Why don't you keep your phone somewhere else? Keep it some distance away. These are very, 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 very sophisticated software. They can listen to you even if your phone is some distance away. So what do? Put it inside a fridge, put it inside a microwave, put it a long distance away, and then you're sure. Right now you have your phone with me. My phone is right there, but our conversation could be recorded as we are talking.
Right.
And so they know what I've said to you. I am deeply disappointed with what the Supreme Court has done or not done. And can I quickly recount what happened? This became a big hue and cry, and after a lot of humming and hawing, the Supreme Court of India was then headed by the Chief Justice of India. He was then, the then Chief Justice of India was N.V. Ramana. After hearing a lot of including the Solicitor General of India on behalf of the government of India, he asked him a straight question. Tell me, has any agency of the government of India purchased this software or not? Pegasus software.
Right.
And he would neither confirm nor
deny it. Yeah.
He didn't say yes, he didn't say no. He kept saying, I can't disclose this information. It's going to alert the enemies of the nation, the terrorists, etc., etc. Finally, on the 27th of October 2021, the Supreme Court, headed by Justice Ramana, he appointed a committee. That was headed by Justice R.V. Ravindran, who was a retired judge of the Supreme Court. He had two members assisting him, Alok Joshi, former director of the government's external intelligence agency, which is the RNAW, the Research and Analysis Wing, which works under the Cabinet Secretary, and Sandeep Oberoi, who was a chairman of the subcommittee of an international organization on standardization, International Electrotechnical Commission, etc., etc. And this committee was in turn supported by another committee of three experts, technical committee. Naveen Chaudhary, a professor of cybersecurity and digital forensics at the National Forensic Sciences University in Gujarat. Professor Prabhaharan, he's from the Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham in Kerala, and he's an expert on cybersecurity. And Ashwin Anil Kumaste, who's a professor in the Department of Computer Sciences and Engineering at the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. They presented a report. Took them a long time. They got extensions. October 27, 2021, the committee was appointed. And in August 2022, a day before Justice Ramana retired, he observed in court that the government had not cooperated with the committee. Right. And he, in open court, he says, we will say one sentence: the government did not cooperate with the Technical Committee on Scrutiny and the devices for Pegasus software. He was presiding over a three-judge bench comprising Justice Suryakant and Bhima Koregaon. She opened, it is a voluminous report in 3 parts. She opened it, the judges went through it very quickly. And it said there were 29 phones examined, and in 5 of them there was some malware, but they couldn't state whether this malware was Pegasus or not. And then he said the report would be uploaded on the website of the Supreme Court. The technical committee's report would be uploaded after they redacted certain portions of it, as there was personal data involved, and the committee members said that we should not put this out. And Justice Ramana said that this committee, headed by Justice Ravindran, had suggested various changes in the existing law on surveillance. And he said that this whole issue of protecting privacy should be part of the whole, the bigger issue of how to protect the cyber secrecy of the nation. Now, the Chief Justice, Justice Ramana, this is the day before he retires, he said, let these observations be made public. That evening, the Supreme Court says the report is not made public. So it's very, very interesting. I mean, earlier they said that invocation of national security does not render the court a mute spectator. This is what the same bench had earlier said. This is how brazen the government is. And despite the observations in an open court, late at night, the same day on the 25th of October, the Supreme Court decided to re-seal that same report where it is there. And it's amazing that you keep these reports under wraps. And it's been around 14 months. So the case was supposed to be heard after a month, 4 weeks. Nothing has.
This is, of course, again a repeating story in the judiciary.
And you hear, the depositions that me, Siddharth Vardharaj and several others have made, they were put up on a website of the inquiry committee. I am surprised and I'm shocked that it's no longer available.
Don't tell me.
Yes.
I have read it. You mean to say
everybody had seen it. Go again to that same committee report. The website of that commission. It is called Pegasus, something about Pegasus.
Yeah.
Everything is there except the depositions. How come?
Well, that's news to me, actually. I didn't realize this.
Yeah. It's a fact. Check it out. Don't believe me.
Okay.
So I am saying, here is a government that can't prevent Parliament, prevent a few young people from infiltrating the security cordon in Parliament, who goes out of its way to make India into a kind of a surveillance Raj.
Very, very great question, actually. But then, as you said, you don't have an answer to this. But then I think, it's important that we present the situation into the world at large, to our audiences, and maybe we can have a nationwide debate on these issues.
I really wonder, Venkatesh, is it a public issue? To you and I it is. That not only our privacy is being invaded, and that is supposed to be a part of our fundamental right, according to the Supreme Court itself, the Puttaswamy case, the becoming judgment. Does it matter? I'm asking, can it become a public issue? Because you're not just infringing on individual privacy. What about freedom of expression, which is a fundamental right of every citizen under Article 91A? I mean, what does this mean for democracy in this country? These are bigger questions, and I think they are very important questions. Can it become a public issue? I hope it does. I don't know.
Yeah. Let us see. I mean, I think maybe this conversation can be a beginning. Maybe I think since we have dealt with this issue in some detail, you have of course gone into the details of then how this is shocking that the depositions are missing from the website. I mean, so I think it should actually become a national movement. The social activists of this country, the political leaders of this country, including people in the BJP, they claim that they have fought for.
When the list of people came, which were allegedly attacked by Pegasus, there were The ministers,
They are kind of
including Ashwini Vaishnaw,
Yeah.
who is the railway minister, the information technology minister, and the communications minister. This was before he became, he held these ministerial positions. He and his wife were allegedly.
So basically, the point is, this struggle for democracy and democratic rights. The many BJP leaders claim that they were part of that struggle during the emergency, but if they are true to their kind of, the so-called history that they have, I think they should also be taking this up. And I hope and believe that this conversation that we had initiated, it gathers momentum and is picked up by people in various walks of life. So with those words, I think we should conclude this. But then I'm certain that this can be the beginning of a nationwide debate on this very major issue of surveillance. And at the same time, in spite of this surveillance and these systems that they've systematically built up, people are still able to kind of bypass them. So I think these two questions, the question of security as well as surveillance, need to be discussed together, and hopefully this conversation will be the beginning for that.
Thank you so much, Venkatesh.